ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So we are discussing from chapter 2 and verse number 63 we discussed last time. So these two verses, 62 and 63. So in these two verses, Lord Krishna explained that how it begins from dhyato, means contemplation or meditation upon objects of senses uh, for the purpose of sense gratification, and then gradually attachment is generated, and attachment leads to lust, kama, and kama leads to krodha, anger, and then when the anger, the living entity becomes sammoha, completely bewildered. Sammoha means complete bewilderedness. Complete bewilderedness means that the person he cannot even understand what that he is in illusion. That is known as complete bewilderedness. Bewilderedness. And from sammoha, smriti vibrama, then he loses all his remembrance. Smriti means remembrance that Lord Krishna is our real uh, object of love. We we have love or an attachment for Krishna. So this samoha, when Vismriti Brahma happens, the person forgets his original, pure, real relationship with Krishna, and he instead of establishing his relationship with Krishna, he establishes a relationship with so many other people in this material world for the purpose of sense gratification, which makes him feel that he has his real relationship with persons of this material world. So that is the stage of Smriti Brahma. He 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 forgets his relationship with Krishna, and from Smriti Brahma, Brahmshat Buddhi Nasha. In this way, his intelligence is completely lost. That means he acts according to the illusion which is created within his mind because of his forgetting Krishna, forgetting relationship with Krishna. And in this way, Rambuddhinasa Pranashyati, he falls down again into the cycle of birth and death, and it continues like this birth after birth. Uh, so this is what was explained in previous two verses. Now next, opposite to this, Lord Krishna explains about a person who instead of getting attached to anything or anyone of this material world, instead he leads his life dedicated to the Supreme Lord, controlling all his mind and senses. Such a person actually receives complete mercy of the Lord. So this is what he explained in today's verse. Ragadvesha vimuktaestu vishayan indriyascharan atmavashar vidheyatma prasadam adhigachati. Uh, on the other hand, Lord Krishna says, but a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. So this is the process. by which one can obtain complete mercy of the Lord and free oneself from the bondage of material existence and enter into his real relationship with the Supreme Lord, or he can establish his real relationship with the Lord and go back home, back to Godhead, to live in, to live eternally in the association of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So, but who can become eligible for this? A person, but a person free from all attachment and aversion. So, in the previous two verses, Lord Krishna explained a person who doesn't control his mind and senses, and instead allows his mind to contemplate or meditate, and allows his senses to continue the process of attachment of this material world. So such a person goes on entangling himself more and more, and finally, pranashyati. Finally, he falls down again in the cycle of birth and death, and he has to again continue the same thing. But in contradiction to this, but a person who can who is able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom. This is very important. The controlling of the senses may not be possible because mind and senses are very powerful, but the senses can be controlled through regulative principles of freedom. So these regulative principles means regulative. What does this regulative principle mean? This means that one who abides by the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master through scriptures. So when one takes shelter of a devotee, a bona fide devotee of the Supreme Lord, who then uh, controls the mind and senses of his disciple through regulative principles of the Shastras. So in this way, even though a person who by his own effort may not be able to cannot control actually his senses from uh, this meditation and engagement of sense gratification, but by taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and following his instruction, by surrendering to him and accepting his instructions, and follows in this way, follows the regulative principles, then he is able to control his senses. So in this way, a person who is able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom, he becomes free from attachment and aversion of this material world. Such a devotee is eligible to obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. This is very important. If somebody just lives in this great illusion that I may do whatever nonsense I want to do, and side by side I can chant Hare Krishna and perform bhakti, so that is illusion. In this way, one cannot obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. One has to again take birth, and and if he performs sinful activities along with the Krishna consciousness, so he will have to, or he may have to get even animalistic birth also. Sometimes devotees, they live in this illusion that if I am chanting Hare Krishna and I have performed some devotional service, so I will not fall down into animal kingdom, animal life. Next birth, okay, I may not go back home, back to Godhead, but at least I will get human birth again. But there is condition. Huh? Everything has got some conditions. Terms and conditions apply. You cannot just say, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, so my human birth is guaranteed. No. If you misuse, especially the seventh offense, if somebody commits the seventh offense is to namno baladhi papa yasya buddhi, uh, to commit sinful activities on the strength of Krishna consciousness, chanting Hare Krishna. Uh, that is the greatest offense. If somebody thinks that let me do whatever sense gratification business I want to do, and side by side I will chant Hare Krishna also, visit temple also, I will do some services. In this way, my human birth is guaranteed. No, that's not guaranteed. If you break regulative principles and if you act whimsically, independently, and thinking that chanting Hare Krishna will nullify everything, so that is a great offense to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And because of this offense, the person has to take animal birth. He cannot avoid it. Just like what is the proof? Prabhupada gives the proof that why there are so many monkeys in Vrindavan. You can hear this lecture. Prabhupada says in one lecture. Why there are so many monkeys in Vrindavan? Yes. Can any one of you answer this? Do you know? No. Why? Because in their previous life, they were doing bhajan, chanting of Hare Krishna, and at the same time they were engaging in illicit sex activity. So because of which they got the birth as monkeys. So where is human birth? It's not necessary. So one should not live in this great illusion that I can do whatever nonsense I want, and at the same time I can get means I will chant Hare Krishna, do some dharmic karya, and become free from my offenses of sinful activity. There are many people in this material world, especially in India, who perform lot of sinful activity, and then they just come to temple and do some give some donation, and they think that their all sinful activity is nullified. So, do you think that Supreme Lord is a fool, that he cannot understand what is the intention of such a person? You know, whatever sinful activity we do, we are supposed to punished by punished for those sinful activities, and whatever punya, pious or religious activity we do, we are supposed to reward it for those pious activities. This nullification business is not there. But yes, of course, there is a case. If somebody who, before coming to devotional service, if he has committed even the greatest kind of sinful activity, but if he takes shelter of Krishna's lotus feet firmly and decides that no more, I will not commit any sinful activity anymore. So for such a person, Krishna uh, means he excuses from sinful reaction, and he grants him his devotional service. He becomes free from. But if somebody is doing devotional service and thinking that uh, my sinful propensity, sinful activities, the reactions will be nullified by chanting Hare Krishna, so that is an offense. One should not do this. That's why in this particular verse, Lord Krishna is very specifically telling that a person who is able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom, and hence he becomes free from attachment and aversion, he can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. And in order to be able to control one's senses, mind and senses, one must take shelter of a bona fide devotee, and under him, from under his guidance, by his mercy, his instructions, one will be able to control his mind. It's not that one cannot control. Controlling mind and senses may appear to be difficult for us right now, uh, because Maya is very powerful. But it's not an impossible task if one sincerely desires to become free from this sinful propensity, to become free from attachment for performing sinful activities. Then, if his desire is sincere, then he will sincerely take shelter of a bona fide devotee, and under his direction, he will follow his instruction. And by following his instructions, uh, which is uh, from scriptures, that's why it's written here, through regulative principles. This is what is regulative principles, to regulate, because a bona fide devotee, a bona fide spiritual master, will then regulate his disciple properly so that he is able to control his senses. And when the disciple or devotee is able to control his senses, he becomes free from the attachment for performing sinful activities and aversion from service to the lotus feet of Krishna. So raga dvesh. So we have raga. Raga for any conditioned soul has raga or attachment for performing sinful activities, and dvesha, aversion for performing devotional service to Krishna. So one can become free from this raga and dvesha, means raga attachment for performing sinful activities. One can become free by taking shelter of a bona fide devotee and under him following his instruction. One can control his senses. So in this way, the raga or attachment for performing sinful activities, one can become free. And aversion means the repulsion for serving. Aversion or hatredness or unwillingness, you can say. In more appropriate word will be unwillingness to perform devotional service to Krishna. That is actually aversion. Raga dvesha vimukta estu. So aversion, unwillingness to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, unwillingness to hear about Krishna, unwillingness to serve Krishna. So this is dvesha, aversion. So from such aversion or unwillingness, also one can become free by when one is able to control his senses, which is possible by taking shelter of uh, guidance and instructions of a bona fide devotee. So one becomes free from this aversion and also from all attachment for performing sinful activities and gratification. So every conditioned soul has attachment for sense enjoyment in various ways and has aversion for serving Krishna or hearing about Krishna, chanting his name. So if at all anybody who desires to develop attachment for serving Krishna and aversion or hatredness, unwillingness for sense gratification. So such a person should take shelter of a bona fide devotee and under his guidance, able instruction, one should follow very strictly regulatory principles, which are regulatory principles of freedom. Then one can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Okay. So with this, we'll end here today. Tomorrow we'll discuss more. But I'll end with one question. So, how many of you desire to develop attachment for serving Krishna and aversion for sense gratification of this material? Yes.